Welcome back to the pre-show, everybody. It's Bachelor Monday.
It's fantasy suite nights.
We're recording during it, but I'm probably gonna watch it later.
I'll watch it tomorrow.
Who gives a fuck about The Bachelor at this point, honestly?
No.
I have a question. Did you watch Meghan and Harry with Oprah last night?
Girl, you know I did. I was glued to the TV, bitch.
Me too. I finished half a bottle of wine.
Oh,
I was like, girl, leave the tea.
I was living. My mom and I were so excited to watch it. Although in my family, we have like three very like differing. Although my dad was like, I don't really care for Oprah. And my mom and I were both like, what the fuck do you have against Oprah? And he didn't really have an answer because he's like, I didn't really like her show. And my mom was like, you never watched her show. You got home at like 5:30. Her show was on at 4:00. And he couldn't really back up his answer. And we were like, just stop.
She's not for you anyways. Her show wasn't for white men, so
exactly. But like my mom is kind of on the fence. She like kind of likes Meghan. She kind of thinks she's sus, where I have been like team Meghan forever and always. And last night I was like, yes, bitch.
Yeah, I haven't like really kept up on anything, but I don't follow the royal family too closely, but I saw that it was on last night and I definitely tuned in. And I mean, it's no secret that the press is, I think, more powerful than people give it credit for. Like, they completely shift the narrative, whether the general public knows it or not and acknowledges it or not. Like, our perception of people depends on the press. And like when Oprah was like, you're the royal family, why don't you just tell them to stop like running that shit? And they're like, no, the press, like, we have meetings with them, like they sit down with us. Because I just think like that's not something that a lot of people think about, is like how powerful the press actually is. It's not just like some random ass dude with a camera. Like there's money involved because people like the royal family know how, I guess, how much of a tool the press can be for like shaping stuff.
And they don't want to piss the press off.
Right.
Yeah, I think there was a lot. There was so much last night that I don't even know where to start. I mean, I wasn't surprised by a lot of it. Like a lot of the stuff that went on behind the scenes. I did, as soon as Meghan was like talking about the whole Kate situation and how she said actually the opposite happened, that Kate made Meghan cry. I was like, oh, the British press is about to have a field day with that one, because they love Kate. And they do not like Meghan. So I'm like, for her to then say that Kate actually made her cry, I'm like, oh, they're gonna have a field day. I haven't really even been online today. It was like a pretty busy day, so I didn't really see if there was much reaction. I know it's airing today or tonight over in the UK, so I'm sure there'll be more. But when Harry came out, he did not come to play last night. And I was here for it. But you could definitely tell that Meghan had to be more careful with her words. Where Harry was just kind of like, fuck it. My dad doesn't
I know. I was like, geez.
Just lay it
I was surprised to hear them defending the queen, though, because I think, and still people are saying like the queen is behind all of this. And it's like, well, they said, they were very animate about that, but like the queen has been nothing but good to both of them.
And Harry's always maintained that him and the queen have a very good relationship. Right. So, and then how he even kind of insinuated that there is some like behind the scenes work that people do to like manipulate her as well. Like I read online that was part of the interview that got cut out, that that Harry and Meghan were supposed to visit the queen, and then a few days before their visit, Harry got a call saying that the queen couldn't anymore. So then when Harry was on the phone with her like the next day or something, he just said, I know that you're busy now, but I thought I might still come. And she looks in her planner and she's like, oh, I guess my time is all filled up now. That like it wasn't like she actively filled stuff up or anything, that it was like people behind the scenes filling up her schedule. So I do buy that when there are so many people involved. Like I think when you think of the royal family, you think of like the Queen, Philip, Charles, Camilla, William, Kate, Meghan, and Harry. Kind of think of that singular line, but it is like a business in a way, and like all of the people involved It's not just the queen. Like, her word is not the word, I don't think. Like, yes, she's the face of it, and she has the most say out of any royal member, but I guarantee that it is not like if she says that something goes, it's just like clear cut and done. I bet there's a lot of people that also have to be on the same page.
Yeah. And it's so like there's so much money involved in the royal family too. And I think a lot of people's job is like maintaining this establishment just for the sake of having a job still. And like, and it's so archaic when you think about it and so outdated. So that job is getting increasingly more difficult. And I think when the queen passes away, it's going to be even more difficult because it's like at this point she is like a historical figure. She's been around for so long that it's almost like we need to preserve this because it's like a special thing. But I don't know if I'm not part of like the British culture or anything, but just knowing that that's where your tax dollars are going. And I mean, I'm not saying that here in America our tax dollars go to good things either, but the fact that it's just a family that really doesn't do or serve like any purpose really.
Well, they do serve. It's just like their different form of government. So like I get it that like they
But don't they have like parliament and stuff and like the prime minister, like they do the politics stuff.
Yeah. I think like the royal family's purpose again, I mean like clearly I'm not British, but I think that they serve more like for the people, like charities, the army, that kind of stuff. They're supposed to be more of like the people's thing. So like so they serve a purpose, but like is it completely necessary? I mean, like as an American, I can look at that and be like, I don't know, maybe it's different. I mean, I'm sure they have a different view of it, but I think you're right that when the queen dies, it's gonna be insanity over there. Because I don't think Charles is very popular. I don't think that's just over here that people don't like him. Like I'm pretty sure that he's not popular over there either.
Yeah, man, I don't know. That's a wild.
Yeah, I just felt very bad for Meghan last night.
Me too.
I felt bad for both of them, but especially Meghan, the fact that when she was talking about how she reached out for help and that no one could help her, and her and Harry talking about that together, that just like really, really fucked with me. It was sad.
Yeah, I've been watching the season of The Crown, or I haven't been watching it recently, but I watched a bit of it where Diana comes into it. I started watching that season, and just the way that that is depicted, it just sounded very similar to what Meghan was dealing with. Like, you're living this fairy tale life on the outside, and like on the inside, you're just so lonely. Like Diana was battling this horrible eating disorder, and no one, you think like you're part of the royal family now, you should be having everybody bend at your every whim, but it's not like you're part of this special family. You're part of this money making machine. And I think like so many famous people have struggled, like Justin Bieber talking about how much he's struggled, like Billie Eilish, that documentary, just like how she has everything in the world but nothing at the same time. Like she's so alone, And same with Justin, like what if you had it all but nobody to call, like it's sad. It's really, really sad. And I think we're so quick to be like, well, you're rich, like, and you have literally the life that everybody wants to be living, so why are you complaining? But mental health is like so important. I don't know.
It doesn't care if you have money or not, or success or not.
Yeah.
That's why in our one episode, what were we talking about with like your one wish? Oh, and Wonder Woman, like your one wish. And I was like, I would just like to be happy because it doesn't matter. Like I could have every single thing that I think I want and I could still be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I catch myself like having that toxic mentality too. Like I see YouTubers just being like, I don't know what to film and I don't like feel fulfilled by this anymore. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like I would kill to have the amount of viewers that you have, and all I have, like no one gives a fuck what you're filming. Like just sit down and talk. People are going to tune in and you're going to make money no matter what. Like I would kill for that job, for that to be my job, to just film and edit. But it's like you don't think about how hard that can be, like watching yourself back and facing these comment sections and everything, like I don't know.
Yeah, the more I see on the internet lately, the more I'm like, do I really want to like be a part of this? Because it just is so anxiety inducing seeing all of the hate that people get from other people, sometimes justified, sometimes not justified, and
I
don't know.
It's a lot.
I'm glad that Popcorn Chats so far has been like a positive environment.
Yeah, I really love where it's at too, and of course I want it to grow, but I never want it to change because I'm genuinely always excited to record and always excited to edit, and I get really excited when new episodes come out and to like see the responses from people. And if at any point it gets where that I lose that, or like it's not fun anymore and it's not bringing us joy anymore, then it doesn't matter how many followers we have or how many people are listening. Like, we'll address that when we cross that bridge. I don't see that happening though, but
my lighting is just gonna be shit in this.
I mean, I have this fan like strobe light going, so it's fine.
I lost my remote to my little lights because I don't know where anything is. I took off all my paint. Like, my room is empty. My books are empty. It's just not a vibe right now. So it'll be better in the future, but for this video, it's gonna suck.
Should we jump in?
Let's jump in. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Buckle up,
because it's gonna be a long ride.
It's gonna be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're gonna tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chats.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm MICHAE.
And I'm Katie.
And this week, well, first off, everyone, wish Katie a happy fucking birthday, because it is Katie's 23rd birthday for the second time. Hey!
Yes, I'm turning 23, time number 2, because I turned 23 when the pandemic started. Y'all know that story. Y'all couldn't stay the fuck inside. Just kidding. I know all of our Popcorn Chats listeners have been superb girlies, but some motherfuckers have not, and they ruined my 23rd year on this planet because I've been having an existential crisis every day for 365 days. So we're gonna try again. I'm hopeful. My parents are getting the vaccine. I'm hopefully gonna be getting the vaccine at some point. I'm just feeling good about 23 2.0.
23 2.0. I can't wait. So yeah, the day that this episode drops is Katie's birthday, and then by this weekend, Katie and I will be getting to see each other in person again, which I'm so excited. We're gonna have a birthday vlog coming to Popcorn Chat's YouTube channel, because we did one for my 24th birthday, and we needed to revive it for Katie's 23rd 2.0.
I love that video of your birthday too.
And I love it, the parking lot there when you have that video of like the car in the air. You're editing on that one. You just really crushed it.
Thank you.
So anyways, today, as it is Katie's birthday, Katie got to choose a topic. She sat through the Star Wars prequel movies and talked about them for my birthday. So for Katie's birthday, she decided that she wanted to rewatch her favorite movie of all time by her favorite person of all time, Little Women, written, directed by Greta Gerwig, starring her main bitch, Saoirse, and her main boy, Timmy. So it's going to be a fun episode. But before we jump into that, we got to check in, of course. Katie, I mean, I know it's your birthday when this drops, but we're a few days before that. How's it going?
It's going fine. My life is somewhat back on track. Oh, I got into a Facebook argument. Not even an argument.
Oh,
I really don't respond to people on Facebook because it's just so toxic, and we all know the crowd that is outspoken on Facebook at this point, and they're in a lot of ways beyond bringing back to reality. But that aside, I haven't responded to anybody's Facebook posts since over the summer when all the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on. There were just certain things that I could not let sit on somebody's page, like just them sitting in their ignorance. And a lot of times it's like people that I care about, like, my family members, that I personally feel responsible for making sure that I at least voice why they're fucking wrong. No, but you know, it's important that we do our best to educate people when appropriate, and especially people in our circle. So somebody in my family shared this thing on Facebook about Dr. Seuss being canceled, and it was like in the style of a Dr. Seuss poem or whatever, and it was like the snowflakes cried and spewed their lies and all this stuff, and it was just incredibly inaccurate. And it was like a picture of the Grinch, and it invoked something about like the Cat in the Hat and Green Eggs and Ham or whatever. All of those books are fine if you don't know what's going on with the Dr. Seuss. And like, some of you might be like, Katie, why did you choose this topic to get heated over? But I'll explain. So if you don't know what's going on, conservative snowflakes are all fucking up in arms because Potato Head Company is switching to Potato Head, and that whole thing, I'm not even going to get into that.
But Mr. and Mrs. will still be available. It's not like they're getting rid of them, because my dad was up in arms about the same thing, and I looked it up, I read, and I corrected him, and I was like, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head will still be there. It's just going to be branded Potato Head moving forward.
Same with Dr. Seuss. They think that they see one thing on Facebook that says Dr. Seuss is being canceled, and they're like, this is Biden's America. Liberals are at it again, canceling everything, and there's nothing offensive about the Cat in the Hat. What's racist about the Grinch? What's racist about Green Eggs and Ham? Bitch, nothing. So what's happening is Dr. Seuss Enterprises, it's their company that is removing 6 books. Because they are super unpopular. I guarantee you that if you read the list, you've probably never even fucking heard of them.
It's not like one fish, two fish, blue fish crap like that everyone knows.
It's none of that stuff. All that stuff is still available, not going anywhere. And it's Dr. Seuss's fucking estate. It's his enterprise making this decision. It's not like this liberal mafia group that's going around busting people's kneecaps whenever the liberal masses says they're canceled. Like, no, it's Dr. Seuss, his enterprise. I'm getting so heated over fucking Dr. Seuss, but basically those 6 books have racial stereotypes depicted in them, and that's another reason why they're being taken off the shelves. So I commented on this shared post, and I just said Dr. Seuss isn't being canceled, and I explained what was actually happening. And the person in my family, I'm really happy that they, instead of like deleting the post or like commenting back and starting a fight, they were like, oh, you know, after further education and like reading this post from Katie, like I now realize that I was wrong, and like I'm gonna leave the post up, and you should read what she said in the comments below, because like this just shows how misinformation can be spread. And I'm like, great, you know, that's literally all I want. Like, I wasn't trying to start an argument or anything. And my comment was very tame, you know, I wasn't like, you stupid, you know, I was like, actually, like, this is what's really going on. This person, I have no idea who this lady is. She's not in my family at all. I think she's a friend of the person in my family who posted this. Her name is Robin. And she commented, Dr. Seuss taught my children how to read. How dare you? And I was like, I didn't say anything back. And she's like, and you used the wrong form of their. I used THEIR. And she's like, read a damn book. First of all, Robin, I didn't use the wrong form of their. I said something about their perspectives, THEIR, showing ownership. I mean, I just don't know what to say. Like, you really had all the confidence in the world to comment that back. I commented back to Miss Robin. I said, hi, Robin. I majored in English in college, so I've read many books. Here's a Grammarly article about how to use their correctly. I hope this helps. Smiley face emoji.
And did Robin respond?
She did not respond. She did not respond. People are just really, really going... I've been so surprised with the amount of confidence that some of these people have. I saw one lady being like, you liberals are so stupid. Biden's not your president. He's on a Hollywood movie set. You're so stupid. He's not actually in the White House. I was like, you are just posting that. Full throttle confidence. Like, you're calling other people stupid. And that's like what Robin did. She's like, read a damn book. You don't even know what the right form of air is. It's like, Robin.
But the thing about stupid people is they are like so confident in themselves, and that's how a lot of misinformation gets out there. Because when you say things with confidence, people just take it, you know? It's like how in Catch Me If You Can, you know, that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, he like does everything with confidence and no one questions him, and that's how he turns into this amazing con man. It's like if you say shit with confidence, people just buy it. Well, love that for Robin.
That's been the one exciting, entertaining thing that's happened in the past couple days. It was kind of amusing. But Jesus Christ, get your news and information from places other than fucking Facebook. All it takes is a quick Google search. And if you're really that up in arms about Dr. Seuss being canceled and you're really that upset about it, wouldn't you investigate the situation? Because clearly you're not actually that upset about it. If you're really concerned that your kids aren't going to be able to read The Cat in the Hat anymore, wouldn't you be looking up where can I buy The Cat in the Hat? And it's going to say fucking everywhere, you dumb bitch. Because nothing's wrong with Cat in the Hat. No one's taking away The Cat in the Hat.
No one's saying that you can't enjoy Dr. Seuss books. Still buy green eggs and ham, count 1 fish, 2 fish, blue fish, crap, whatever. No one cares.
And if you're going to sit around and call people snowflakes and getting triggered for Black people being killed by the police or women being assaulted by men who are in positions of power and all this other stuff, then don't look stupid and get triggered over stupid shit that you made up in your head that you're too lazy to go and Google to find out that you actually have nothing to be triggered over. I'm really just trying not to work myself up and age myself. I feel like when I think too hard about these motherfuckers out there that are literally influencing what happens in our country, I like lose years off of my life.
And you know what I think too? I see so many people, so many stupid people having children where it's like, I don't want children, but I almost feel like I need to have children to offset. You know, my old flame from church camp. Yeah. He and his wife are having a baby. And his shit online got so bad that I had to unfriend him because he was he's like such a racist, homophobic, transphobic piece of shit. And he's bringing a child into the world. I know. I'm like, I need to have one just to offset the shit that your kid is gonna be.
I know. Yeah, and that's the thing too, like Robin probably voted. Like she's an active member of society and doesn't know the different forms of there, which is fine. Like the American education system is severely lacking. That's not her fault. But the fact that she went out of her way to be like, you're stupid when I used it correctly, I'm very concerned. How are you?
That is like the longest check-in rant ever, and I love it. I'm honestly very just stressed out right now. The day that this episode drops, I will be moving into my new apartment. Hopefully I have keys. I don't know, y'all. Change in general, like I think throws a lot of people out of whack, but it just like it really fucks me up. Yeah, there's just like a lot, like Katie said, like everything just has to be difficult. And then like
I know, it's so unnecessary. Like why?
Like utilities and internet, and granted, it's like those things are not hard to do. Like I have a call sheet. I know that I just need to like call them, get these accounts set up. But it just like the littlest things when I'm already like on the verge of like just like spiraling, the littlest things set me over. And my like parents do not understand that like them peppering me with questions doesn't fucking help me. It just like makes me more anxious. So when they're like, have you heard back from your building manager yet? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, oh, well, like, is she not responding? Did she used to not respond? Like, don't ask me that because then I'm going to spiral and think that she's literally going to block me and like never give me keys. Like, it's irrational and I know it, but that's just like how mental health fucking goes, people. And then last night watching Megan's whole interview just like really fucking sent me as well. So it's not been like a good day. It's probably going to be a bad week leading up to this. Hopefully on the day that this drops, I'm doing all right. But yeah, it's just I'm not like in a good place right now. Like I'm not having it. So, I wanted to watch A Star Is Born today to just really dive in, but it's packed up So instead, I decided I'm going to try to comfort myself. So I just watched 5 seconds of summer music video and live performances for like 2 hours because I just needed a comfort time. And I've been watching Jersey Shore again, just trying to like comfort myself.
I get it.
Self-soothe.
Yeah, dude.
Do not contact me, anyone. Because I am not in the space.
It, like you said, it's simple tasks, but there's so many things that you have to be doing. Like when you move in, it's because it's like restarting your life somewhere else, and you have to make sure you have. It's just like you don't think about all of it. It's like, oh, we need forks. Like I need, it's just so much all at once, and it's all like simple things, but it's all at once. So then when people are like asking you questions, I just remember being very overwhelmed when Jack and I moved recently, and I don't know, feeling like I wanted to cut everybody's head off because I was just like, if you're not gonna help me and you're just gonna ask questions and stress me out, then shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. Ugh.
See, that's the thing. I know they're being helpful. Like, when my parents are asking me these questions, I know they're being helpful, but it stresses me out more. Yeah. Because then they almost get nervous about things, or like they make me more stressed about things than I should be. And then like I start to snap and I'm like, it's not fair because they're literally just trying to help me, but I have no way to like cope with it besides either like snapping or having a panic attack. And neither are good solutions. So also I'm still sure that my hair is fine.
No. Okay.
I don't know, Katie. You're gonna have to tell when I'm in person if my hair seems thinner, and you'll have to be honest with me. I don't want you to bullshit me.
No, I will be honest with you. Don't worry, dude. I will check it though. I'm getting my hair cut on Thursday.
So you'll have a fresh look.
No one gives a fuck. Yeah, I am. I got my stick-on nails for my birthday, and they're so hot. And they're really long, which I was worried about. But then I was like, it's a good thing because then I can't open my claws too rapidly, so I won't like go overboard too fast because I always have to have somebody open my drink for me.
The last time you had press-on nails was at New Year's Eve downtown Madison 2 years ago. When there was that really bad snowstorm and they were falling off left and right. I remember you had one hanging in someone's hair at one point.
I know. No, this time it's different press on. It's glue. So
okay. Oh my god, do you see my boobs right now? They literally look it looks like I just have one boob.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a very old sports bra. Anyways, I'm going to adjust. Okay, people, don't judge me.
I'm not.
We're just gonna set that there. We're gonna tuck it under my boob a bit.
Don't judge my hair, because she's... Oh my god.
Well, don't judge me when I lose all of my hair.
Anyways. I mean, from here, it looks normal. It looks fine.
Should we actually talk about this movie?
Let's do it. I mean, I feel like, honestly, we've talked about Little Women, the 2019 version, so many times. Like, but not a full episode, but we've brought it up a lot because it's just, like, one of my favorite movies, and are you all right?
I just hiccuped. I'm okay.
And Greta is one of my favorite creators. So actually today I watched the 1994 version. I didn't watch the 2019 version because I've seen the 2019 version.
It a lot.
Yeah, and I just watched it recently. So I didn't feel like I necessarily needed to go back and rewatch that, but I wanted to. I just ran out of time. But yeah, I went back and watched the 1994 version, and I had a pleasant time. I don't think it's as good as 2019. We can get into why, but...
Do you want to do standout star, standout scene?
Sure. Obviously, standout Joe for me. I mean, I am Joe. Joe is me. We are one being. But I also love Beth. The person who plays Joe is very important, and the person who plays Beth is the second most important, like, cast, because she's, like, the emotional pull in the story. And now, I think after Greta's readaptation of it, I think Amy's going to be another really important character, because in Greta's version, Amy is a lot more prominent than she is in other versions, and she's a really important foil for Joe's character, I think. I love Joe. I love all of them. I mean, how can you choose a standout? Like, the Little Women is now used in Hollywood as a vehicle for, like, assembling this monstrosity, amazing cast, all putting it into one project. So, like, it's not meant to pick out, like, a standout star. I think you're meant to, like, gravitate towards one of the sisters as a woman, but I love them all. Come on.
I mean, have your OG girl and your new girl, Emma and Saoirse,
right,
side by side.
Right. Yeah. And Meryl is amazing. Laura Dern is amazing. Florence Pugh is amazing.
I would agree with Joe for sure. I, unlike Katie, not that I never disliked Saoirse Ronan, but I never was, like, obsessed with her. And I hadn't really seen her in a lot up until this point. And I don't even know if I had seen Lady Bird at the time when I had seen this movie. I had seen Brooklyn, which was, like, my first movie that I've seen of Saoirse Ronan's. And I liked it, but I was kind of like, meh. Like, it was a good movie, but wasn't, like, one that I knew I would be going back and rewatching. So seeing her in this, I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I get why Katie really likes her. And I just thought her performance was very strong. I did not really know the story of Little Women going into this movie. And it was the first adaptation of Little Women that I had seen. I have never read the book, and I didn't really know how the story unfolded, like, whatsoever. So we'll talk about that, some of my misconceptions later on. But seeing this, I was just, like, very drawn into Joe's character and how Saoirse Ronan played her. And that was interesting that you just said that Amy was not as big in the older versions, because I just assumed Amy was a prominent character. Like, I kind of thought that it went, like, Joe, Amy, Beth, Meg. I mean, clearly, right there, it says it all.
Right.
In terms of, like, screen time, or not, like, level of importance, because they're all important, but it's kind of, like, who the time is devoted to. Even though you get a lot of them all, I just really thought that Amy was always a more prominent sister, but that's interesting that in this version she was made more so, because I do really like Amy's character, even though sometimes I'm like, girl, you frustrate the crap out of me, but she's supposed to.
Yes, you keep kind of freezing.
Your internet connection is unstable. So am I, bitch.
Yeah.
Standout scene, Katie.
Okay, so the first time I ever consumed, like, my first exposure to Little Women was when I was very, very, very young. My mom used to take me to a bunch of plays. Like, any time there was a play anywhere, we were going. Like, and it wasn't, like, Broadway stuff, like, at the Overture Center. It was just, like, random things, like, at middle schools or high schools. Like, we would just drive and go and watch plays because that's what I liked, and she knew I liked it, and it was cheap and fun. And I couldn't tell the difference between, like, a high school play and a fucking Broadway show. So, but this one actually was at the Overture Center, but it was, like, not in the main theater. It was
one of the smaller ones.
Yeah, one of the smaller ones. And we saw Little Women, and I remember this scene, like, so clearly to this day. I was probably, like, 5 or 6, and I still remember it so clearly when Joe cuts her hair off to buy Marmie's railroad tickets. I just remember that scene so clearly in the play, and it's one of those scenes that, like, never changes in any of the adaptations. It's always the same, and even though Greta's version is, like, very staunchly different from the other 3 major motion picture versions, and she kept it exactly the same as it was in the stage play and in all the other film versions. And I think it's just because it's so well done. It's such a good scene because it's kind of Joe living up to this. She kind of always denies her gender and, like, denies being a woman and wishes that she was a man so that she could go and fight with her dad in the war and have agency over her life. This is something that she does to provide for her family, the one thing that she can do because women can't work. And so, you know, and Amy says, "You're one beauty," and all this stuff. And, you know, we think like Jo wouldn't care about that. Later we hear her crying and Beth is like, are you thinking about father? And she's like, no, my hair. And it's just like, it humanizes her so much, and it's not, I really resonated with that too. Like, I was a tomboy. I've always been a tomboy, which I hate that word, tomboy, but, you know, I've never really been like a girly girl, but at the end of the day, I love being a woman, and I love everything that comes with being a woman sometimes. That's a strong statement to say. Actually, I don't love everything that comes with being a woman, but I love being a woman, and I think Jo does too. I don't know, I just like that moment, and I think it's really neat that it's the one thing that really stands out to me from, and my like memory of the play when I saw it when I was like 5, and it's the one thing that really stays consistent throughout all the film adaptations, because it's funny. It's like a funny moment.
I mean, I would never do that. I'd be like, sorry, you can catch him when he gets home. But I really like my hair, so
yeah.
Okay, I have 2 scenes that, after the first time seeing this in theaters, and then today when I was watching, like, these 2 scenes were the 2 that stuck with me from that original watching, and then rewatching it, I was still like, these are the fucking scenes. And so the first one is going to be on the hill when Laurie and Jo are talking, and Laurie is confessing his love, and Jo is like, we would be unhappy. And you can just totally see both sides of him being like, I literally can't go on like this anymore with not letting you know how I feel. And he's like, I think that we could be happy. You know, I love you. I've loved you since the first day I met you. But like, I haven't been able to express that because you don't let me. And her on the flip side of being like, I don't want to get married. I don't think I'll ever get married. And it's just crushing because I'll get into this a little more later, but I did not know that Laurie ends up with Amy. I was dead convinced that Laurie and Jo ended up together. So I was like, this is their big like breakup moment, and then they'll have a reconciliation later on. I'm still waiting. But anyways, that scene is great, and I really just think that Saoirse and Timmy's chemistry is amazing. Like, the 2 of them on screen together is just so good. And then the other scene was when Jo is talking with Marmee about how she's so lonely after Beth dies, and they're up in the attic. And again, it kind of goes back to what Katie and I were talking about. I think this was maybe in the pre-show, or if it was at the beginning of the episode. I don't know at this point. We were kind of talking about how you can like be successful and reach these goals, but you can just be empty. I just like Jo talking about how she's like, I thought I wanted this independent life, and I still do, and I want agency over my own life, and I never wanted these things, but I'm lonely. And I think it just comes down to like, everyone wants to love and to be loved by someone, even someone like Jo, who at this time wants to put her careers and aspirations above societal norms that were placed on women. It's just a really great scene for Jo's character, and I think it rings true for a lot of people. I know for myself, who's always been like, I don't know if I ever want to get married, but like, that doesn't mean that you don't want like anyone in your life, you know, right? Or to be like completely alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah, I like when she says, I care more to be loved. It sounds selfish, but we, at that point in the film, know Jo so well, and she has so much love to give, and she does love. She loves hugely and immensely in a different way than her sisters do. Like, they all love in such different ways, you know? And in the 1994 version, she says, Amy asks her, do you love him more than me? And she's talking about Laurie. And Jo's like, no, I could never love anyone more than I love my sisters. And it's just such a tender moment, because I think that's totally true, even with the professor, too. Like, we can get into that whole situation. But I think Jo's greatest love is the love that she has for her sisters and her family. I don't think she can wrap her head around ever loving somebody more than them. But they're all leaving. Beth has passed away, Amy's gone in Paris, and Meg has married and has family. 2 children, and so that childhood that they all had together, where it was just this very loving relationship between the 4 of them, it's gone. I mean, they still love her, but they're all in separate directions, and I just think this whole mess, it's just a masterpiece. And it's like women communicating across centuries, and especially in the 2019 version, I feel like it's Louisa May Alcott speaking to us all these years later. so much has changed in the world and in America and for women in general since then. But there's so many things that ring true and themes that are still the same. I think it's really neat that a woman that was a writer and creator back during a time where women didn't really have a very prominent voice can speak to us today through her work. I think that's really neat.
This is a random fucking question, but before we get into this, is his real name Timothée Chalamet? Like, is that his actual birth name?
Yeah. I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that like a stage name or is that his real fucking name? Like, did he pop out of the womb and they were like, your name is Timothée Chalamet? Or was he like 20 and at NYU and an agent was like, you're Timothée Chalamet now?
I'm pretty sure it's his real name. Let's look.
Because then there was really no choice for him but to become a star. Because I guarantee he was not going to put down Timothée Chalamet on a Subway application to make sandwiches.
You are right.
Okay? There's just, like, no way.
Yeah, Timothy Hall Chalamet.
They really just knew. His parents were really like, we are putting all of our eggs in one basket here. I mean, glad we cleared that up. But you know, like, you were not going to be working at Planet Fitness with a Timothée Chalamet.
Why'd you
just wouldn't.
Planet Fitness?
Well, you just know, like, that is a name that is, like, on a billboard. It's not a name that's on a schedule for a 6-hour shift, you know?
Same with Saoirse Ronan, too. Like,
yeah, and Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, no shade, no tea to Emma Watson, but it's like if you saw Emma Watson come through on a Subway application, you'd be like, yeah, that seems normal. But if you saw Timothée Chalamet come through, you would be like, there's no way he can work here. He has star power just from that name. He's not going to have a little name tag that says Timothy.
Spelled that way, yeah, with like the THEE at the end and the little accent.
Exactly. Let me just get a sip from my comfort cup.
Oh, dude, I forgot to tell you that Jack's parents sent me my birthday present, and part of it was, like, a really fancy, nice water bottle, which I'm like, oh, thank you, like, it's one of those ones that's, like, temperature controlled or whatever, but I'm like, ooh. I have my emotional support water bottle that I don't know if I can part with it, because it's genuinely, like, I get anxiety. You know how, like, when you can't find your phone? Like, I get anxiety when I can't find my water bottle. I'm like, where the fuck is it?
It's been through it all with you.
It really has. Oh my god. Anyways, back to this. Jesus Christ. Okay, so like I said, I watched the 1994 version today because I just wanted to shake it up. And there's a lot of differences, obviously. Joe's the narrator, which in the 2019 version, we don't hear Joe voicing over anything, which I appreciate more. I think sometimes narrators are a cop-out and you should be able to just tell your story visually, but that's just a personal opinion.
Kissing Booth and After both have
yeah, just
if that's saying anything.
If that gives you any indication. One thing that I think is pretty interesting, so when Amy is an adult in the 2019 version, she has that whole speech with her and Timothy when they're in like the art gallery about the lack of agency women have and how you basically have to marry somebody rich and let go of your dreams and let them die. Like, it's just a very powerful conversation, and it's one of the reasons why Amy is such a prominent figure in the 2019 version more so than in the other versions. Anyways, in the 1994 version, I noticed that young Amy says, "One has a choice to who we love." It's when the four sisters are talking in their little gentlemen's club, and they're talking about what they want to be when they grow up. You know, how they need to marry rich men so that they can continue to do what they love, basically. Little Amy. So in that version, Amy is the youngest child, and in certain versions of the film or adaptations, Beth is the youngest, and in certain versions, Amy is the youngest. In the 1994 version, Amy is the youngest. She's played by Kirsten Dunst as a child, and then a different actress when she's older. It was interesting to me that as a kid, she says, "I think we have a choice in who we love," and then in Greta's version, she kept that same line, but had adult Amy say it to Timothy.
Mm-hmm. Do you know in the book who's youngest?
I believe it's Amy. So the first talkie adaptation in black and white with Katharine Hepburn was in 1933. I'm pretty sure Amy's the youngest in that. And then in the 1949 version, which was the first version in color, Beth was the youngest in that. And it kind of made audiences fall in love with her even more and like even more heartbroken when she died because she's the youngest.
It makes sense.
And it makes more sense too, like with Joe and Amy being closer in age.
Yeah.
So I think
that there would be a bit more of a rivalry almost between the two of them.
Definitely. And like the whole Amy being upset that she can't go to the dance or whatever and then burning Joe's stuff. Like, I think that's definitely I'm not that much younger. Like, I should be able to go type thing, you know? Mm-hmm. I think Christian Bale is a really good Laurie. I think he's really hot. But he kisses Joe. Like, in that hillside scene that you're talking about. First of all, Greta's version of that, 10 million times better than any other version. So much raw emotion. Timmy's performance blows everybody else out of the water. But yeah, Laurie like is starting to confess his love to Joe in the 1994 version and is like, and she's like, no, Teddy, don't. And then he kisses her. And I'm like, ew, that would never happen nowadays. And also him and Amy like getting together is creepy too. Like he's like kissing, I don't know. Timmy does it so much better. Christian was like really cute at the beginning of the movie, but dropped the ball later on.
I think it makes it more believable for me that he then falls in love with Amy and marries her because he never kisses Joe. Yeah. I think if we would have seen them kissing, it would have, I don't know, I don't think it would have like gone over as well for me. I'm still not so Can we talk about that? Can we talk about Laurie and Joe and Amy for a moment? Because side note about this too, I have never really understood Katie's like hype about Timothée Chalamet, and like still I don't know, he's just like not necessarily like my dude, but he's totally right up Katie's alley. But this movie, I totally get it, and I think it's the pirate shirts, like the fluffy pirate shirts and the like old-timey look. It's a fucking vibe, and his hair in this movie, like, he's hot.
Remember that TikTok of
where
Timmy?
He slow dances?
Yeah, dude.
I was trying to find that today because I felt like I needed it.
Right? Like, it's almost a year after that was viral, and I just want to see that again.
He just really does it for me in this movie. And he just, and in Call Me By Your Name, he does it for me too. Yeah. Anyways. So, like I said, I didn't... So like I said, I did not know that Laurie and Joe didn't end up together. I was convinced. And even I found myself today rewatching this movie. I know that they don't get together. And still, I'm sitting there rooting for these two. I am sitting there being like, how can they overcome this? And I remember watching it in theater for the first time when they come back and Amy and Laurie are married. And I remember watching and being like, I don't think we have enough time. Like, how is he gonna leave her, marry Joe? Like, how is this all gonna work out? They just don't have time for this. Mm-hmm. And then they really just didn't have time for it. And they didn't go there. And I was so confused because I was so convinced. And even again watching this, I still was shipping them, even though I get it. I get why he ends up with Amy, and I get why Joe ends up with the professor. I totally understand it. I see the signs. But I still just see so many signs for Joe and Laurie. Yeah. And I just want to know if I'm alone in that. If I am, that's fine. I think it's something in me with always wanting, like, them to fight, like, the largest obstacles and overcome it in the face of true love. I don't know. It's still, I was shocked that it still kind of threw me off today, even though I knew that it was coming.
I will say you are not alone. I feel the same way, and I think everybody kind of does. And we're supposed to, you know, we're meant to ship them, so to speak, and to root for them. Any adaptation, it doesn't feel right that she ends up with the professor, you know. I think if we lived in a perfect world, and, you know, Louisa May Alcott intended for Joe to end up with nobody, but obviously that was not allowed back then. So nobody really likes the ending with Joe and Laurie, but Alcott didn't want them to end up together, and so to spite the publishing company, she kind of just had this random dude show up. I don't know, they're, I guess, intellectual soulmates, it really doesn't fit. It feels awkward, and it's like the weaker part of the story. I think any reasonable critic would say that it's like the weakest part of this body of work, because it's about the sisters at the end of the day.
Do you think anyone would ever remake the version and make it the way that Louise May Alcott intended and have Joe not end up with anyone?
I mean, I would be willing to bet money that Greta considered doing it that way. And I think what she ended up doing with it is like the closest that she could have gotten to doing it that way without completely taking it over. I think she had such a good balance of paying homage to Little Women past. I mean, it's one of the most recreated bodies of work ever. We have the 4 major film adaptations, silent film adaptations, miniseries, TV series, plays, operas, musicals. Like, it has been remade so many times. So she was definitely walking a very fine line in making this her own, but also not completely taking it over. And she, again, did a lot of research into Louisa May Alcott and what she would have wanted, like what Greta does with Joe going to the publishing company and talking to the guy. And the story starts off that way and ends with Joe, again, like negotiating with him for her share of like the profits, and him saying no, she has to end up with somebody at the end. And that being how her own personal life plays out. I mean, none of that happens in the other versions. And in fact, in the 1994 version, it's the professor who gets her book published for her. Like, she sends it to him, and then he comes and tells her that it's been published or picked up by a publisher. Whereas in the 2019 version, Joe does it herself. She goes and is like negotiating. And that's, I think in that moment, that's like Joe is Louisa May Alcott in that moment. If Joe didn't get married at the end, we wouldn't have Little Women, because the book wouldn't have been published, because that's just the way the world worked back in the 1800s. So I think Greta made the right decision to still include that, but to kind of acknowledge it. The film kind of makes fun of itself and makes fun of it and is very aware that it doesn't make sense. But I'm glad she did it the way that she did. I like him too, honestly, when he's like, my hands are empty, and she's like, they're not empty.
I know. I do like him, and I think at least it didn't seem in this version, granted I can't speak for the others, to come out of nowhere when we've seen him, like at the start.
Yep.
And then when he pops up for the family meal and stuff. I mean, yes, it does still kind of come out of nowhere a bit, just because here I am thinking that it's going to be Laurie this whole time, but then at the end, like, it does kind of make sense, and I like that whole, like, running to the train, to get him. I mean, that's, like, a very classic trope. Love that. And it's raining. I love a rain moment.
How her sisters go with her and are like, you love him, come on, this is it. Like, this is your moment to be loved, to have somebody love you the way that we do. And it's a beautiful moment. In the older versions, she just runs after him. Like, he comes to her house and drops it off and then leaves, and she, like, runs after him in the rain. So, I don't know. It's not as good. I mean, everything is not as good as Greta's, but
I just really like that while there are 4 characters, or 4 main characters, because then you still have Marmee and Meryl Streep's character and Laurie. Like, you have a lot of people in this, but the 4 sisters are all very unique and individual and fleshed out, and each of their wants and desires and dreams. And I like that, the night or the morning or something before Meg's wedding, when her and Joe are talking, and Joe's like, we can run away, and Meg says, like, just because my dreams are different than yours doesn't mean they're not important. And I was like, it's just really true. Like, you see these 4 separate sisters who all have goals and dreams that aren't the same, but yet they're so important to each of them. And just because Meg wants the more, like, traditional life that is kind of expected of women doesn't mean that she's less than Joe, or that her goals and dreams are of lesser value than Joe's just because hers go against the norms. And I think that's kind of true in today's world too, that, like, we kind of have to remind ourselves, like, if women want to like stay at home and be like stay-at-home moms and raise children, like that doesn't make them any less than like a woman who wants to have like a really high-powered career, and vice versa.
I agree. I think in Greta's version, the characters are the same characters that have been laid out in all the other versions, but I think they're way more fleshed out, and their relationships with each other are more fleshed out. And I just think the structure of Greta's offers a richer view of each of the Little Women. Like, we start off seeing Meg living in poverty and like having these money problems, and then we go back in time and see her wanting nice things and, you know, kind of the initial struggle with that, but also her kind heart and how she falls in love with this man. Like, it's just a very unique viewing experience because we're in the middle of the story when we start the 2019 version, and we get to see them grow into these women. I think it just, again, that's why Amy's character is so much more fleshed out, is because we get to see the seeds planted and then have them reflected in adulthood, and like how certain moments in their childhood are reflected in their adulthood.
Did you notice that Meg's rich friend is the girl from Moxie, the main girl?
Oh, I didn't.
I didn't realize that until today. I was like,
interesting.
I just saw you somewhere. Also, this is so random, but Emma Watson's hair color in this is the shade of brunette that I desire to have. It is the most perfect shade of brown hair I've ever seen in my life, and I literally want my hair dyed that color right now. It's just so perfect. Every time she was on screen, I couldn't stop staring at her hair.
Dude, she is perfect. She is like one of the prettiest girlies ever.
She's so stunning. Ugh.
I love her too. I love every fucking character she plays. It's just so, like, I know that Meg is kind of whatever sister, but like, she just plays it so well. It's perfect for her.
She makes her very endearing.
Yeah.
Because if anything, I almost feel like Beth is kind of the one in this one that I'm kind of like, I can take or leave. I get that. Like,
damn. Well,
like,
she dies halfway through, so you don't have to deal with her that long. Jesus.
It's not that I have to deal with her. It's not like I don't like her. I'm just saying, like, out of the four sisters, I think, like, in this, Meg, Amy, and Jo, like, just draw my attention so much more than Beth does. No shade, no tea to Beth. I'm sorry that you died, sister, but she's just, I don't feel as much emotional pull towards her as I do in scenes like Jo and Lori on the hill.
Yeah.
Or Jo's speech to Marmee, or Amy and Lori's time in Paris. You know, like that like tugs on my heart.
He gives her the piano, or he lets her come over.
That was
like
cute.
That shit. Oh man.
But again, it's the old man that's like pulling me in. It's not Beth.
Interesting.
And like when Beth is playing the piano and he's like sitting on the stairs and he's crying, I'm just like, oh, I feel so bad for this old man.
Yeah. She's meant to be
lonely.
Understated. I think I get what you're saying. Like, she's not meant to like draw your attention.
Yeah. So like I said, no shade, no tea to Beth. And obviously, like you said, in some of the older versions, Beth sounds like she's maybe more prominent. So if I watched, maybe I'd feel differently. But in these, it's not like if Amy were to die, you know, I would really be like, oh shit, I don't know. Sorry, Beth.
I wouldn't say she's more prominent, but like whoever plays Beth is an important role because she's like the emotional weight of the film, I guess. I mean, that might be a bold statement, but like her death is the turning point, and the loss of innocence and childhood is when Beth dies, and it really has to sell, because there's like two versions of Jo in these films, and like especially in the 2019 version, that's what separates the golden hue from the blue hue is death.
Yeah.
With Beth. Death with Beth.
Yeah.
But genuinely, I mean, it's a very important moment, and we need to feel that gravitas in order to buy the rest of the the hour and a half that's left of the film.
And I don't deny that. And, like, I totally see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, for me, it's not, like, the most prominent thing that I think about. Question is, does Celia play Beth? And Evelyn Hugo is, okay, interesting. And Evelyn is Jo, right?
Yeah. I want that to be a movie so fucking bad. Or a miniseries. A limited series.
I think a miniseries would be great.
I already know that's gonna get me in my goddamn feels. So that book was so good. Guys, if you haven't read Evelyn Hugo, I know you've heard about it. And just don't be one of those people that's like, it's too popular, so I'm not gonna read it. Fucking read it. It is one of the best books I've ever read.
Things are popular for a fucking reason.
It had me in turmoil. And I mean, in that book, it talks about Little Women and how big of a thing it is in Hollywood. The biggest people in Hollywood were in the most recent version, and same with the 1994 version, like Winona Ryder and Christian Bale. Those were the people of the time. And Susan Sarandon, like, get out of here. And then Kirsten Dunst, like, catapulted into fame after that, so.
I had a note on the tones. I love the blue and or the cool and warm tones. I really like that distinction. It helps with the jumping narrative because, like I said, I didn't know the story going into it, so at first when I was watching this in theaters, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, I can't follow this. And then, like, when I picked up that the cool and the warm tones distincted past and present, that was helpful for someone stupid like me.
Yeah, I really, like, that's obviously one of the standout things with Greta's, like, retelling of it. And my favorite part about all of that is when it kind of comes to a head. Like, it kind of feels like an accordion. Like, it starts off very slow progression. Like, we get a long period of time in the present, we get a long period of time in the past, and then those increments get shorter and shorter when we're cutting back and forth. And then when it comes to the moment of, like, Meg gets married, Amy goes to Paris, Beth dies, like, that all just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. It's like the past and present bleeding into one, and, like, this is the moment where it switches from light to dark. With other versions, like, Beth gets sick, and then Marmee comes home, and she gets better. The sickness, like, weakened her heart. A while later, then she dies. Greta's version, like, you don't get a second to breathe. Like, she gets sick, Marmee comes home, she gets better, and Jo comes down the stairs thinking that Beth is dead and sees her at the table and it's happy, and that's, like, the last time they're all together. The warm tone, and then it switches to the cool tone immediately after that. And she's dead. Like, there's no, like, you don't get that period of time. And it hits so much harder today when I was watching the 1994 version. I didn't even shed a tear because it does not hold a flame to what Greta puts you through as a viewer. This theme of remembering childhood, like, the bittersweetness of growing up, and, like, the gold hues. Once you're in the thick of Greta's version, you realize that, like, this is so wonderful, and the relationships between these sisters and this family is so wonderful, but it's also over. It's gone. Like, the cool tones, the blue tones, the part of the movie that, like, we don't really like because Beth is dead, Meg is gone, Amy is with Laurie. We don't really like how things turned out, and, like, that, but that is the present, the good stuff, the stuff that makes you fall in love with these characters. It's over. When Jo is up in the attic and talking to Marmee during that scene, like, she's being haunted by what used to be, and, like, how they all used to be in that attic together, and that's over. Like, it'll never happen again. And she, like, puts that into her book, and that's how they, like, stay alive. It's so meta because it's like Jo is writing this book to preserve her sisters, but it's still over. It's still the past, but, like, they live on as a memory, like, in the art that Jo herself creates, and the art that, like, Louisa created, that we keep recreating in Hollywood and on stage and everything. Can you guys tell that I love this shit so much?
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Why is her name Marmee?
I don't know. I used to wonder that a lot when I was young. I think just probably like an old or
Timey
like an
thing.
old thing. Yeah, I don't know.
And also that his name is Laurie. Is it spelled like Laurie, or is it like Lori?
No, it's like Laurie because his name is Theodore Lawrence.
Oh my god, I totally missed that. Because I was like, why is she like, can I call you Teddy? I'm like, that's random, but pop off. I didn't realize that his name was Theodore. That makes sense now. The other thing that I think that Greta just, again, I don't know the other versions, but in this, I think is so outstanding, is that she creates the most organized chaos on screen. Mm-hmm. And it feels like a very realistic family dynamic when you're watching it. Like, you're hearing everyone talking at once and talking over each other, and everyone's excited, and they're all in this room together, and everyone's trying to, get their word in. But it never once feels like you're like, can you all just like chill? It feels
Mm-hmm.
very realistic, and you never, I think, get frustrated with seeing them all, because they all resolve it. It's like the perfect balance of everyone talking over each other, and then everyone like lets people get their lines in. I don't know. It just really works. And I feel like that would be really hard to do.
I think that was something that they spent a lot of time on during rehearsal, because it's a hard thing to choreograph and to like make seem natural. And I think the way she wrote it is like line of dialogue dashed, and that's where the next person comes in and they're interrupting each other. But then the blocking of it too, like when they enter the space, it's like this hurricane. And I really, really appreciate it. I think it takes the family dynamic to the next level. I've always felt, even back when I saw it as a play when I was really young, like I've always felt watching this that I want to be a part of this family. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I wish I could, like, you want to be a part of it. I think this controlled chaos that they have going on, and this like loving relationship that all these sisters have, like, I have always personally just felt like I want to be a part of that. And I feel kind of like how Laurie feels, like an outside looking in on it, and just you're never going to be a part of it because it's just such a natural connection that they all have that you could never recreate. So like, how do you as a director create that with actors who are not related?
I would think their chemistry would have to be so just instant,
Yeah.
Well, I think this is kind of obvious, but I just want to ask it anyways, and I know it's hard to pick, but which sister is your favorite?
I think if I had to choose one to have as my sister, I would choose Meg.
She'd be a solid sister.
I've always wanted to have an older sibling because I've been the older sibling. And I think if I had to choose one of them to be my sister, I would choose Meg. And I would obviously still keep Erin as my younger sister. But yeah, I mean, if I could be one of them, I would be Jo. And my favorite one to watch is probably Jo, I guess.
You're right. Meg would make a really great sister. I don't have a sister. I have an older brother, but I have always wanted a sister. And I think Meg would be the best one. I think she would offset me very well, kind of like how Meg offsets Jo very well. Not that I'm like saying that I'm similar to Jo, but I think in terms of like chaoticness almost, that, Meg would just be like a calm presence that I would need. And very level-headed and very practical, which I need that counterbalance. Jo is definitely my favorite to watch, but also like Amy's enjoyable. As much as Amy annoys me, I do just find her enjoyable to watch in this movie. But she would be the last one that I would want as a sister. And like I said, Beth is fine. She seems like a vibe, but she's dead on the outside. I'm dead on the inside. Beth, we are two peas in a pod.
Damn.
I have another question for you. Why do you love Little Women so much? Is it the story? Is it Greta Gerwig's interpretation specifically that has really like captivated you?
There's a lot of things that I love about it. In general, I've been drawn to it. Like I said, since I was young, I really liked the story and just the relationship between all the sisters and the character of Jo. I also love the idea that something can transcend centuries, it's been so long. And something about women too, a female focused, and like just the character of Jo being who she is, how that worked back in the late 1800s, and it's transcended, and there's versions of it for every generation, and I think there will be versions of it to come because it's so special, and it always has new things to say, you know, even though it's the same story being retold, there's new interpretations of it. And I really think that the director of the 1994 version and Greta did the work to really read in between the lines and see what Louisa May Alcott was trying to say in the way that she was allowed to say it back then. And I think just moving forward, it's only going to get better, hopefully. I can't really imagine anything better than Greta's version now, but I just think there's always something new to say about it, even though it's an old story. It's always timely when it's remade, you know. Like after the 1994 version, I don't think people thought that what does Little Women have left to say? Like, it's already been done so many times. Like, why do we need another making of it? But clearly this 2019, like, post Me Too movement, post, like, resurgence of the women's movement, it was important, and it did have more to say. I don't know, it's just very special, and there's like some really deep themes, you know, letting go of your childhood and what is really important to take with you from childhood. And she says the most important rule of writing is to write what you don't know. And like any person who's gone to school for writing will tell you that that is like the number one rule, what not to do. You're supposed to write what you know. And the moral of the story ends up being like, no, write what you know. Write your story, write your life story. And that is because that's important, and that's what needs to be told. Because Jo spends so much time like thinking that her life is not as great as it could be. In the version I watched today, she's in a room full of men, and they're talking about women having the right to vote, and they should have the right to vote because they're good and like morally better than men. And Jo says, no, we should be able to vote because we're human beings. And the men say, you should have been a lawyer. And she says, I should have been a lot of things. Just going back to like, Jo spends so much time wishing that she were a man, and wishing things were different, and wishing her family wasn't poor, having all these fantastical ideas and writing all these plays about and stories about fantastical things that happen, when really the magic that we're all seeing play out on screen is what's drawing us in as an audience, and what ends up being her ticket into being the writer that she's always wanted to be. It's just writing her life and her coming to terms with that, like, oh, I actually had a really amazing life, and these stories are important, and this life is important. But she's still actively fighting to like have agency over her own life. That was a lot, but there's a lot of reasons why I love it. Yeah. It's very good. Very, very good. So you haven't really seen any of the other versions. Like I said, this has been remade so many times. There's so many different adaptations. There's like an anime version of this adaptation. Like, it's crazy.
Go. All right.
And I think you're a little bit more keen on remakes than I am. So I just want to know, in your opinion, like, what justifies a remake, or does it need to be justified?
Okay, let's jump into things. I love a remake when, like you said, if it's justified. I think there's a big difference between remake and revival. So I will just say that not every single show that used to be on needs a season now or a reunion special. Fuller House was the ultimate atrocity of this. Just leave it alone. Mary-Kate and Ashley, you really made a smart move on that one. But a remake, I enjoy, because I like seeing stories brought to a new generation. I would never probably watch the old versions of Little Women. There wasn't this new one. I would maybe go back and watch the 1994 one like you did. I'd be interested. I won't seek it out. It would more be like if I was with you and you were like, hey, do you want to watch this? Because like I honestly don't care to go back and watch it. A new, fresh take with faces that I already know. I mean, it's not that I don't know Winona Ryder and Christian Bale, but I don't necessarily care. Right. Where with this version, I saw all of these people that I knew in Hollywood right now, and I wanted to watch them in it. Think the same thing with A Star is Born, because that is also the 4th remake of it, and that was just made in 2018. So it was just a year before this one was remade. And again, it's a story that was brought to a new generation, because would I have ever gone back and watched any of the old ones of those? Also probably not. But it's a story that I think deserves to be told, and it has a place in today's world, just like Little Women does. I don't know, I like it. I like the different takes that you get on each person that does a project, and
yeah,
I really like remakes. I think, again, like building off of other worlds too, I kind of think about that way with Star Wars, is how they were like the original trilogies, and then the prequels came out at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s. That brought Star Wars to a whole new generation. If that would have never been made, I probably would have ended up seeing the original 3 at some point, because my dad was a fan, but I never would have like been a huge fan of them, because even now I'm like, they're fine, but they're definitely not my favorite. And then the newest ones that came out in the late 2010s, that brought a whole new generation into the Star Wars world.
Yeah.
And the fucking old men who shit on those, I'm like, they're not for you. Like, yes, you're a fan and you can see these expanded into this universe, but these are for newer generations and new people to get interested in these movies that don't want to watch the original George Lucas versions.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone wants to watch those. So I love remakes, I love expandings, and I love retellings. I think Little Women is a story that, like you said, it transcends time, and there's always something relevant. Or how you said with Amy's character, you know, they, like, Greta really boosted up her storyline a bit more to maybe be more relevant to today's time. I'm here for it.
Especially, like, going back and watching the 1994 version, I'm like, they really did need to remake this, because, you know, before the 2019 version, I was like, Little Women's so good, and now it's just like, it's just gotten better with time. And I might again be biased because the 2019 version was made for like people of today, and like with these really prominent actors who I've grown up watching and loving.
And if 20 years there's a new Little Women, I'll probably go see that one too.
Yeah, and like bring my daughter to see that one, and I'll probably show my kids this 2019 version, and that'll be like their 90s version that like my mom showed me when I was yeah, you know, it's
I don't
cute.
know, I think there are stories that I'm like, did you really need to expand on that? But stories like this, I think they're kind of classic, you know.
Right. And, you know, it's becoming this thing now, too, where, like, the actresses of the time are in these films, and it's really becoming an excuse for Hollywood to get these prominent people together to work on one project. You won't always get that with, like, a new original script. But I think if, like Michaela said, 20 years down the line, we have these big names, and you want to get them all together for a huge box office success, you're gonna have more luck doing that with script like Little Women rather than an original script, unless that original script is amazing.
Yeah, because Little Women has a guaranteed audience.
Exactly.
Now.
It's a guaranteed audience. So. Anybody who's in Little Women is either already super prominent or, you know, goes on to be prominent. Like Katharine Hepburn was the 1993 version, and she was launched into stardom from that. And then when they remade it in 1949, it was like the exact same script, just in color. And Elizabeth Taylor was Amy. Janet Leigh, who's the girl in Psycho, was Meg. And Margaret O'Brien played Beth, and her career completely took off. So in that version, Beth is younger, and when she passes away, I think that really tugged at audiences' heartstrings, and she, like, really, her career took off after that. But it's weird because it's always going to be risky to remake it, too. Like, in 1994, when it was considered risky, even though, I mean, the jump from 1949 to 1994, so much has happened. Like, the women's movement has happened. There's more women in the workforce. Like, you would think that it'd be, like, a good idea to remake it because it's been a long-ass time. And women now, there's, like, this girl power thing going on. But it was still considered risky, and it was hard to get female-led films made at the time. But they got Winona Ryder to do it, and that kind of sealed the deal because she was so big. And they do things like culturally too with each one. Like the 1933 version, that was during the Great Depression, and people saw this family being poor and like giving of themselves to people who were poorer than them, and like getting by on what little they had and still being ambitious. And I think people really resonated with that at the time when no one was employed. And like in 1949, that was like shortly after World War II, and you know, people saw Jo like wanting to go fight with her dad, and like their dad being over fighting in the Civil War. Like I think just every retelling of it, different parts resonate with society at the time.
Different times.
I could go on and on. I think I could. This is one of the things that I could talk about for forever, just because, I mean, it's like I said, it's been remade so many times. So, but yeah, thanks for covering this with me.
Yes, I've been wanting to rewatch. Like I've told you, I've been wanting to rewatch this since I saw it in theaters, and this gave me an excuse to finally do that. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the rewatch. I love the costuming. I don't think I mentioned that. I didn't even make a note of that, but
yeah, it's great.
The costuming is just so good in this. I really vibe. Also, the amount of work it takes to make a book.
Yeah.
Like old school. I think about that and I'm like, I can't imagine having to handwrite a book first of all. Because the amount of times that I'm like, nope, that sucks. Cut it. Delete it. To do that is insane. And then the process of making the book, I love that scene and how Jo is watching, and you can just tell awesome. She's so happy watching it. There's just so much detail that went into that I was like, oh shit. I would definitely not be cut out for the olden times. Everything is too much work. Me
either. Yeah, we think things are too difficult now. Like how they had to heat things up with like, I don't know. No from me, dog. Absolutely not. And just like having to be a woman and like literally there comes a point in your life where it's like you have to let go of all of your dreams and ambitions and just be a wife. And like for some people that's fine. Like Meg, that's what she wants to be. Like she loves John and her 2 kids and whatever. Cute. But like but Amy like and Jo, they kind of have to confront letting go of the things that they've always wanted to be. And then also like as kids they knew that they were gonna have to do that too. Like that's just fucked up. They were like, I'm gonna try to marry a rich man so I can keep doing the things that I like to do. Can you imagine?
Yep. Because I would never be able to snag a rich man.
So much pressure. Like the fate of your family too depends on who you marry. Like it doesn't matter if you work really hard and like try really hard and like you don't get that chance to even work and to be employed.
No.
Like if you were ugly, then your family will be poor forever. Because you're not going to be able to marry anybody. Like maybe you're ugly and really good at fucking chopping wood, but you're not allowed to chop wood because you have a vagina. Like where's the logic? You know?
All right, everyone, you know the fucking drill. If you're listening on Apple Pods, go to our homepage, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review if you feel so inclined. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you also go to our homepage and subscribe so that way we pop up on your feed on Monday mornings. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell, like the episodes, comment, engage. If you're on TikTok, which we all know you are, follow at Popcorn Chats Pod. All the other social medias and stuff is in the link below. If you're listening on any other podcast streaming platform, I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge you. Figure out how to subscribe to us on those on your own damn time.
You're cute though. We love you.
You're cute though. We just cover the major bases. I think that's it, y'all. It is Monday, March 15th, so make sure that you go and wish Katie a happy 23rd 2.0 birthday.
Beware the Ides of March. Julius Caesar was murdered on this day, but more importantly, a star was born in Merida Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin in 1997. Indeed I was.
I don't think I knew that. Fake friend.
Fake friend. You were born in Michigan.
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Let's cut this off. Lilas.